Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So the footage you are seeing in the background is from one of the latest time trials to Gran Turismo 7 involving the Fugu Z and the Streets of Willow Springs. It's a bit of a toughie, and I think in all honesty it's perhaps the most frustrating thing I've ever done within Gran Turismo 7. Now usually when I do these time trials, they're not usually too bad. Even if I'm having a bit of a lazy week, I'll jump in last minute, get a few laps in and come away with at least 1 million, mostly 2 million credits, so gold and silver. And well, this time I did finally get the gold at the minute, which, you know, could change depending on the times and such. And it was probably the most infuriating thing I've ever done within GT7, and for good reason. I don't think it's very much the car, I think it's the track itself. So let's have a look just how it should be done. This is the current world record for this track, and as you can see, it's a pretty mental and insane lap. You know, very low gears into high gears, short shifting absolutely everywhere to keep your grip, running the track limits to their absolute maximum. I honestly cannot see where this lap can be massively improved on. In fact, there is a huge jump in the top 10, which I will probably show you towards the end of the video, where essentially it will go from I believe the top 4 is like currently within the 114s, and then the rest are kind of into the 115s to high 115s. There really is, you know, almost a huge jump even within the top 10 of this current time trial. It has to be pinpoint perfect to get this lap down, and that is again mainly due to the track limits that we have here at the Streets of Willow Springs and some of the awkward angles that you have to run the car at. So this is a track that doesn't very often feature that much in GT7. In all honesty, we don't see it very often. We're lucky to see it featured maybe once every 6 to 8 months, to be quite honest. I think the last time I actually remember being here was for the Civic race a long time back. So that was how it was supposed to be done with the world record, but let's see how I was managing to get on. As you're going to see, the retry button and the exit button is going to be completely worn out by the time I'm done here, constantly running those track limits. So even when I'm keeping the momentum, it just takes that slight little bit out or slight little cut, and you can guarantee that time is going to go red and your lap is not going to count. And I've had many experiences essentially just doing this over the last few days. Now, you know, look, I've not had the most time to be able to put into this time trial, but every time I've done it, I kind of either end up being too cautious, trying not to run the track limits and end up with a realistically awful time, or I end up being a bit over the top and just slightly cutting a slight bit too much and basically going into the red and completely bottling my lap. As you can see, the retry button coming in massively handy, and it's mostly to do with the first sector, where I actually realistically find it the worst of the entire thing. It's so finicky and it's such a fine line between cutting and not cutting that it's very difficult to get it too precise. As you can see, a slight tyre over, you're gonna go into the red. However, sometimes you'll feel you've gone over and no, it will stay absolutely white and you're in for a valid lap. So as you can see, the first turn is an absolute problem. If you get it slightly wrong, you are guaranteed to basically invalidate that lap, and then you also go into the right hander after, where again you're almost required to cut pinpoint perfect, and if you slightly get it out or you run a little bit too wide, well, say goodbye to that lap as well. There's also another section here kind of towards the end of the lap where again you're almost required to precisely cut it, and if you slightly get that tire on, again, there goes your lap. So as you can see, this has been a bit of a frustrating time trial for me, although I think majority of the time I've got a decent bit of speed there to quite easily clear it into the low 116s. It just seems to be every time I'm absolutely on it, I will completely fluff the lap up and get that invalidation. It really is driving me bizarre. But like I said, I did eventually manage to get the car into the 116, I believe 116.6 or 116.7s to just give me that gold time by couple of tenths really, I believe by about 2 tenths, which is currently what it's at. I think the gold is currently in the 169, something like that. But again, it's still way off my usual pace, and that's because I either have to be overly cautious and, you know, be constantly trying to remember not to cut the track even the slightest bit, or just kind of, you know, a bit too over the top and then risk cutting it, which I pretty much do every single time. So here is my current fastest lap. As you can see, we're going to be a little bit lifting off and a little bit more cautious than we realistically should be, just to avoid cutting these first few sectors. You can see, you know, not getting it as kind of inwards or across the desert as we realistically should. Then you've got quite an easy bit where you're going to run down the straights. Basically, this place is where you're not really going to lose too much time. As long as you get a good run out, you're all good. And then it gets into the awkward banking where I'm going to absolutely fluff it up, not getting the car wide enough. We get a decent exit out though, and again through here it's going to require you to lift off a touch before it gets into this very awkward left-hander. And again, we couldn't quite get the car turned in before we get it into the right-hander again, where you really need to cut. It's a lot easier than some of the other cuts. We do get it a bit better through the left-hander, managing to just keep it within the lines. And then again, you've got the kind of right-hander into the run up the hill. You can lose a ton of momentum there if you get the gear shift wrong, and that's pretty much what I did. Now realistically, I should be kicking it down into first gear and quickly short shifting back up to second there. I chose to just keep it in second just to keep it safe. I knew it was a decent enough lap that it should possibly get me in the gold. And as you can see, when we cross the line, we're going to do it in a 1:16.637, so a little bit more than 2 tenths currently clear on that gold time. So there we have it. In my opinion, this has been one of the most frustrating times I've currently had within GT7, and it's no fault of the car, and it's not really the track's fault. It's just how finicky some of those penalty lines are. Like, it's almost impossible not to cut it if you want to be insanely fast, but it requires you to be able to cut every single corner pretty much and cut it pinpoint precise, slightly out, and you can guarantee your lap is done. Now, do I think I could go quicker? Perhaps. I think I could quite easily land it in the low 16s. Again, I just think I need to be a bit more ballsy and basically just stick to it. You know, if I'm cutting, and I'm keeping it clean, then it should all be good. But, you know, I should really kind of avoid doing a bit of a rage quit that I have been doing, or constantly restarting. I think once I get the momentum going, then I should all be good. And that's what I can fully recommend to you guys. If any of you guys are struggling, even if you invalidate your lap, stick at it. Don't give up, and you can guarantee you will eventually string the perfect one together. Well, this is certainly one of the more frustrating of the time trials that I've currently done within GT7. Usually they're not too bad. Next up, I'll be attempting the Le Mans one, which is the latest one. Hopefully this will give me at least enough just to cover that gold off and get the 2 million credits. So yeah, hopefully the Le Mans one isn't as frustrating. But I just thought I'd kind of, you know, put together a bit of a funny video showing just how many rage quits it does take, that we're not all perfect, and you don't have to be perfect each and every time either. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later on, guys. Take care. Peace.